Sometimes I think of myself, or the prep lab in general, as almost an entryway for all specimens to come into the museums. I'm Terry Barclay, and I am the manager of the preparation lab at the Museum of Vertebrate Zoology. The prep lab is basically where all the skeleton specimens and the study skins are prepared for the museum's collection. For any specimens that are coming into the museum, whether it be from the field or donations, we'll inventory them and take down any of the data that is available to us, such as where they came from, where they were found, and the circumstances of how they were found. So when we get a specimen donated to the museum, what often happens, it's a whole animal, and so we have to do all the dissections. So the animal is, if it's not already frozen, we'll defrost it. We will do all the measurements, all the initial observations, such as if it has any parasites or any injuries or any abnormalities that are very obvious to us. We'll then open it up, we'll take a tissue sample, we'll sex it, all that good stuff. Everything that we can't see again once it's a skeleton will happen during the dissection phase. After we're done dissecting it, we'll ensure that all the fur, skin, feathers, as well as any scales, depending on what type of prep it is removed. Once it's all removed, what we'll do is we'll dry it out. Once it's a dried skeleton, it may go directly into the domestic beetles if there's space, or what we can do is we can take those dried skeletons, freeze them, and send them up to the museum so that the curators can organize them and curate them into the database, and then they can send it back down to me once they're ready and I have space to process them. For the skeletons, what happens is that we utilize domestic beetles as well as the help of undergrads to clean up all our skeletons, so that way we can take it from a whole animal down to the clean skeletons that you see in the collection. If they've gone into the domestic beetle colony, what we'll do is that students or myself will actually take the boxes of skeletons out of the colony, remove as many beetles as we can from the skeleton. That way they can go back into the colony to do more work for us. So myself or undergrads will do a process called waterworks, where we manually clean any of the bits and pieces, any tendon or muscle tissue that the beetles missed during their process. Once the skeleton is clean, what we'll do is we'll dry them out again, and we'll take those clean dried skeletons and then we'll box them up into one of our archival boxes or in one of the little vials that we have for storage. And we'll label them, inventory them, then we'll send them back into the freezer, make sure that there are no hitchhiking bugs or any other pests that might get onto the skeleton during the process, and it'll eventually go back up to the museum to be archived into the collection. Every once in a while we get really neat, rare donations. A lot of these come from the local zoos here in the Bay Area, such as Oakland Zoo or San Francisco Zoo. One donation that we got last year was actually an African lion. So this was a much older lion that died from age-related causes. I brought the lion back to the MVZ. We did more dissection work of just removing more soft tissue, any skin and fur that may have been left behind on the skeleton. Then once that was all done, we did the same process just like any other specimen of going through the beetle colony. Right now, if you look at it, it is a little fatty. Often the zoo animals have a pretty darn good diet over there. And so since it's fatty, it isn't great for archiving. You know, if you put it in an archival box, eventually that fat leaches out, and that's just no good. So what I'm doing is actually utilizing another process called maceration. So macerating is basically soaking the specimen in water, or you can do a chemical maceration, which ammonia basically does. But I'm utilizing water so that hopefully the fat seeps out of the skeleton. I can drain that out, as well as scrub the skeleton a bit so that now it's actually clean bones and we can archive it for long-term storage. The prep lab, it's a link from everything that happens outside the museum and connecting all the specimens to the museum itself.